Hello everyone. So I'm a little hesitant to make a live video because the last few times I've done a live video, my service has been awful and I've had to just sort of like do them over again in this way. So for today, I'm gonna do it like this. It's like snowing outside, it's like windy outside here in New York, so I don't trust my service today. But I have a topic I want to talk about today, and the title is going to make you think that this topic is pretty simple, and it is pretty simple. However, people tend to talk about the all or nothing mentality in a way that's like, yeah, we get it, you can't do that, but no one's really giving anyone the understanding of like what's beneath it all and like how to actually get rid of it. Because the reality is that most of us know we should not be having an all or nothing mentality, but most of us have it without being able to stop it, or understand why or help ourselves. So I want to go into today like what I think is beneath the all or nothing mentality, what I think causes it, and a few examples of this mentality with a few analogies to help you guys understand how irrational certain behaviors really are, especially regarding health and fitness goals. So the first thing that I want to go over is that this is how I see it. I see it as the all or nothing mentality is a direct result of a lack of good strategy, and a lack of good strategy is a direct result of a lack of education or knowledge surrounding the topic that you are engaging in activities that have to do with an all or nothing mentality. So for example, if you have an all or nothing mentality surrounding exercise, where it's like, oh, I don't have time to work out unless I have an hour and a half, or I overdo it and then I burn out, and I overdo it and then I burn out instead of making it a lifestyle routine, this is fed by a bad strategy, because all of those things are a result of a bad strategy, and a bad strategy is always fed by a lack of education or a lack of knowledge on how to do things properly, how to let your body recover, all of that stuff. So I see it as like there's like arrows, right? It's like lack of education and knowledge, which is like a huge problem with health and fitness these days, and I've talked about this enough, right? Lack of education and knowledge, which leads directly into a shitty strategy or lack thereof, right? No strategy at all, which leads directly into an all or nothing mentality, which is like, I don't really know what I'm doing, so I'm gonna try to do as much as I can at one time and hope that it sticks, and it never does. So I'm gonna get into the details a little bit today, and I'm gonna talk about evidence that you have an all or nothing mentality, or that you are engaging in behaviors as a result of an all or nothing mentality, what's beneath it all, and maybe a few like analogy examples of this so that you can sort of make sense of what's going on. So I would say that in your health and fitness, most of our problems are going to fall under this umbrella of the all or nothing mentality. Whether you cannot maintain a workout routine, whether you are inconsistent, whether you're burning yourself out, whether you're not seeing results, it's usually either we're doing too much or we're doing too little. So the all or nothing mentality would affect you if you're doing too much because you think you have to do so much all at one time. And then ironically, your body has no time to recover, so you can't actually reap the benefits. Or since you have no time to recover, you end up burning out, and then you stop and you start and you stop and you start and you stop and you start. And then on the other hand, people with an all or nothing mentality who don't actually start at all is still a result of the all or nothing mentality, because they say, well, unless I have an hour or two to spend in the gym, it's not worth it, so I don't have the time. And this is a really great example of the all or nothing mentality, because I've had clients and I've had people who have gotten their fitness levels up to a place that they've never been before, working out 15 minutes a day. 15 minutes or less a day. And it helps with all other areas of their life. But if they were to have that all or nothing mentality and say, look, I only have 15 minutes, I can't do anything, I may as well waste the next 15 minutes scrolling through Instagram, then it's not going to be very helpful, okay? So I believe, like I said, that an all or nothing mentality always indicates a bad strategy or lack thereof, which is a lot of these examples that I just went through, right? So a good strategy is always going to acknowledge a couple different things. And you can think of strategy, I don't know if you guys have heard before, there's an acronym called SMART goals. And it's basically every letter of SMART goals. It's like how to set goals that are realistic and attainable, and how to set goals that are powerful. So having a good strategy, part of having a good strategy is setting goals in this way, and then applying your strategy to those goals, right? So the acronym itself is going to spell out, right? It's going to spell out pieces of the strategy part, like things that are measurable, things that are time bound, things that are attainable during time that you have. So basically, like I said, having a bad strategy is going to it's not going to indicate how much of something to do, or how much time you have to do it, so to speak. So this is going to relate to the instant gratification mindset. People who are trying to do things as quickly as possible and they don't have a good gauge on how much they should be doing at one time, or how much is necessary, or how much is too much, right? They don't have a strategy because they don't have an education on the way their body's going to respond, on how to do it all. Whereas if you set a SMART goal, two of those things would be measurable and time bound, which means you're going to give yourself an amount of time to get to a certain place, and whether or not you've gotten to that certain place is going to be measurable. So strategy by definition is going to address two things that are going to prevent you from engaging in activities that abide by the all or nothing mentality, which is giving you a specific amount to do, right? An amount to do each day or whatever, in terms of food, in terms of working out, in terms of exercise, so that you don't have the all or nothing mentality that's just, I have to do as much as I can all at once, right? You have that mindset of, I have a good strategy. I know this is doing the best for me in the long term, and I know that this is what's going to make me successful. So what I've done for today is enough, and trusting that what you've done for today is enough. And that's part of it. And then the other part of it is measuring, right? Knowing whether you're there or not. Having a bad strategy is going to say, oh, I want to get to this place, but I have no idea when I'm there or not because I haven't defined it. And that's another deal with the all or nothing mentality, is you're not able to measure like how much you're doing or all of that stuff. You're just kind of like going at it as hard as you can, or vice versa, thinking that you have to go at it as hard as you can and then never starting at all. It's like, if you have that all or nothing mentality and you never actually start, it's like you're trying to get all your little ducks in a row before you can start. And so then 10 years goes by and you haven't started. And that's the biggest issue. So I'm going to go over two examples now of an all or nothing mentality with analogies. Well, the first one has an analogy because this one I was sort of thinking of the other day, and I was like, that's a really good analogy. And I'm going to put it this way, okay? So caloric restriction, specifically carb restriction. Initially, I was going to make this video on that topic, but I think that this is a facet of the larger topic that I wanted to talk about, right? So most people believe they have to restrict their carbohydrates, and at the end of the day, I've seen, and I don't just say this because I think it, I say this because I see it with almost every client I've ever worked with, is that the amount of restriction or the amount of carbohydrate restriction that they are engaging in is actually putting them backwards. They are not benefiting from it at all. They're getting less fit. They're not reaching their goals because they're doing too much. And this is an example of the all or nothing mentality. And I think that applying it to carbohydrates is really, really relevant. Okay? So my problem with it is that yes, most people eat too many carbs, especially refined carbohydrates. In this day and age, in this culture, most of us are eating too many carbs, but that does not mean that we don't need carbs. That does not mean that we should not eat carbs. That does not mean that we cannot lose weight and reach our fitness goals with carbs. In fact, you should be eating carbs to do those things. So engaging in the all or nothing mentality, an example of that would be, I'm eating way too many carbs, so I can't eat any at all. I'm going to cut them out. Good luck with that. So my example for this one would be like sleep, okay? So carbohydrates are like sleep, okay? And this is gonna sound, just hear me out. Carbohydrates are like sleep. So obviously, if you got into a rut where you were sleeping 16 hours a day, you might say, damn, I feel like I'm like drowsy all the time. I'm not energized, like I'm not energetic. I don't feel awake because I'm actually getting too much sleep. And you might say, damn, if I slept 16 hours a day, I would never get anything done. I would never get anything else done. I wouldn't be productive. I wouldn't be living my life. So you're in this place where you're like, wow, I'm sleeping 16 hours a day. I'm not getting anything else done. Oh my God, I have to make a change. I can't sleep at all. I'm not going to sleep at all. I'm going to stop sleeping. What the fuck? We all know that we wouldn't do that. And you want to know why? We know that we wouldn't do that because most of us have a knowledge and an education surrounding the benefits and the necessity of sleeping. We all know we need to sleep, and most of us have a strategy surrounding sleep. We know whether we need 6 to 8 to 10 hours because we have been educated on this. It's part of common knowledge, and we have an idea of the type of lifestyle that we need to live to function at our best. So why then do we have such a lack of knowledge around something as simple as nutrition? We all know that we need sleep, and yet we're willing to cut carbohydrates out, and they're just as essential as something like sleeping. So for me, that's like a no-brainer. And I don't mean to hate on anyone on keto here, but you know I talk about keto all the time. It's like you know, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Carbs are your number one source of energy. Fats are your number two source of energy. If you start using fats for energy above carbs, your body is undergoing an adaptation to keep you alive. This is not optimal. So my example here would be, okay, if I'm not getting any sleep at all, no sleep, no carbs, I'm just going to drink a shit ton of coffee and hope that I still go, right? And for a few days, this might work. So the scale is different here, right? For keto, a few months, a few years even, this might work, okay? For sleeping, you really can't go more than a few days. So let's just say that in terms of the keto analogy, it's scaling up, right? But long term, something's gonna happen. You're gonna crash and you're gonna burn. And very few of us know the long-term effects of the ketogenic diet because it hasn't been around all that long. But it is my suspicion that it's going to hurt people in the long term, especially people who are engaging in it as young people. They are going to be muscle wasting. They are going to lose their ability to process carbohydrates in a way that's gonna make them really energy deficient. It's just lots of problems. Your metabolism is going to be fucked. Like, I am strongly opinionated about this, right? You have 3 macronutrients for a reason. A triangle is the strongest shape, right? The strongest shape. No brainer. But you have 3 macronutrients for a reason, and there's no reason to cut any one of them out in the same way that you wouldn't say that sleep takes away from your ability to get shit done during the day. Because you know that you need sleep to show up for those things powerfully, okay? So that's my analogy, okay, for diet. And then number 2, we're gonna go over exercise. I already addressed this one a little bit, but the all or nothing mentality in terms of exercise would be, unless I have an hour unless I have at least an hour to work out every day, there's no point, right? People say, oh, I have to be at work by 9 and I woke up at 7:30. Like, I don't have any time to get to the gym and back. Like, I'm not gonna be able to spend a full hour there, so, you know, whatever. I can't go. I don't have time. It's just not a part of my life. And yet, that time that you don't have, you still have this like window of like 15, 20 minutes where you end up wasting time because you don't have quite enough time to go and work out, but you have just enough time to like waste 15 minutes. So my whole thing is like, this is going to feed into the all or nothing mentality of, I need a full hour to work out for it to be effective. And that's just not the case, right? If you had a good strategy, you would know, well, if you had a good knowledge and education of working out and you know, nutrition and exercise, you would know that you could actually get a kick-ass workout in 15 minutes if you just decided to do it, right? If you just decided to do it. But that all or nothing mentality is making you either go way too far, burn yourself out, or not start at all. And both of those extremes are shitty places to be when you could be somewhere in the middle where you're saying, I'm doing enough for today, and if it wasn't as much as yesterday, that's okay. If it's not as much as tomorrow, that's okay. Maybe today was half of a workout. Half of a fucking workout is better than no workout at all. And you can get a full workout in 15 minutes if you have the knowledge and education on how to do so. The only problem, and this is going to relate again to strategy, is that most people don't have the tools to have a good workout in 15 minutes because they don't have a strategy. They don't have a plan. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. If I only had 15 minutes, I would quickly like devise a workout in my head as effective as possible based on what muscle groups I want to work. And I could do that easily, but not everyone has that knowledge, right? So if you only have 15 minutes to work out and you're like, well, what do you spend 10 of those minutes just like walking around floundering, trying to figure out what the fuck you want to do. It's because you have no strategy, right? So again, all or nothing mentality is fed by no strategy, bad strategy, or lack thereof, which is fed by lack of education, lack of knowledge, right? Which is astounding to me because, like I said, we all know things as simple as brushing our teeth and sleeping and whatever, but we wouldn't call those a waste of time, or we wouldn't have an all or nothing mentality surrounding those things, and yet we do with our own health and our own fitness and our own nutrition. And I think that this is a big issue, and I think that you have definitely heard about the all or nothing mentality before, but have you heard about the origin? Have you heard about what's underneath it? Have you thought about why it's happening? So I challenge you, especially if you're local and you're snowed in today. I don't know how bad it's gonna get, but it's getting crazy. If you are one of those people who you stop yourself in your tracks every time you want to start something because, oh, well, that's not good enough, right? I challenge you to see nothing is perfect and to just start something. I don't care if you do 20 squats today. I don't care if you do 10 burpees today. Do something that you didn't do yesterday and get rid of that all or nothing mentality, okay? And comment, like, share, let me know. I would love to talk to you about your strategy, especially if you only have 15, 20 minutes to work out in a day. I know a lot of entrepreneurs. I know a lot of people in this place, right? And mothers and all these people, busy people, right? If you're one of those people, talk to me, right? It's, you got to have the knowledge, you got to have the education to make sure that you get rid of that mentality and you have the strategy to make the most of the time that you do have, you know, and also in terms of diet, like I said. So comment, like, share. I don't want to make it too long today, but definitely engage on this post. Let me know what you think, and I will talk to you guys soon.